Hello everyone and welcome back to the Emperor BTC channel. Today's video is going to be an altcoin market update video. It's been a couple of weeks since I last covered alts, so we have a good bit to get through, but we'll try and keep it short and sweet. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So starting off with Ethereum, a lot of the levels that we had predetermined on the chart over the last few weeks have remained relevant. We have, of course, this resistance towards the range highs, and I'm sure there's a value area high in and around this region also, where we ran up after this SFP of this range low down into what you could describe as a potential supply zone. And we of course ran up, found resistance in this area, dropped back down, got this SFP of this low over here. We got this sharp retracement back up, and then we have this kind of lower time frame KSNR zone, which is essentially just when we had this consolidation and kind of low volume area. We were consistently finding support in this region. We fell through it on the lower time frames. It was a nice area to look for scalp shorts in this daily candle, and then I believe it flipped bullish on the run up here. We dropped through it, SFP came back up, rejected at this area, and we've dropped back down, and we're starting to find, similar to all alts, similarly just following BTC, we're starting to get some bearish underside retests of some really key areas, with the main one being this key SNR zone. Because if we just fly up to the weekly quickly, you can see we had a lot of resistance on the higher time frame in this area. We then had some resistance initially, but came back down, took out the previous week low here, got a nice push up, and then we even flipped it before we had this run up, where we put in a lower high, and then we put in a lower high again here at the moment. So at the moment we are putting in lower highs and lower lows, which is a standard downtrend on the weekly time frame. Then you can see we are finding resistance in and around this KSNR zone, which all in all doesn't look fantastic. So while we're on the weekly, it's worth looking for some potential higher time frame long-term levels on ETH. One really nice one is this region. So if we were to potentially look at this plot of price action here, even as a potential range, where we have this deviation at range lows, and now we've got this deviation at range highs, these relative equal highs, with this SFP of the previous all-time high, and now we are getting some acceptance back inside this range, which all in all again is not fantastic just from a price action standpoint. There's also this mid-range point, which, similar to this light gray area, could be a potential area within this higher time frame range that could potentially be an area for some sort of bounce. But as of the moment, I am not looking to add to any long-term spot positions, given I've done so well on my spot portfolio during this cycle. It's really sometimes important about protecting profits. I do believe we will see lower prices eventually anyway, so I will wait and accumulate at, say, these sort of levels where we have a discount of price. Of course, everything BTC dependent. If we just go down to the daily time frame again for ETH, we are rejecting in this key area. I do think, similar to BTC, at minimum we will get back down to this wick low and fill it in, and then after that I will potentially reassess. So with a lot of these alts, there will be the recurring theme of, I guess, bearishness, although Solana is probably one of the more less clear because as of the moment it is sitting inside this key kind of SNR zone where you can see, of course, there's been resistance, support and resistance again on a few different occasions. And as the moment, we are still holding inside of it, especially you can see the bodies of the candle. So the opens and the closes, they are still respecting the level, and price is trying to catch a bid. And it was a really nice area to look for some spot buys. I think I had highlighted that in a previous video, but given the circumstances that caused this big flush candle, sometimes it's best to reassess on certain occasions. Of course, there is always the buy the dip, and some people do it and it comes off and they look brilliant, but sometimes also there's an element of patience and seeing, okay, is this just another one of those occasions? Because sometimes on these, if you're wrong, and some people like to bet big, well, then all your gains are gone. So I'm still waiting for Solana because similar to ETH, it's all BTC dependent. We are finding some resistance here now in this kind of lines, though. This, I guess, low. You see, we're coming back up, we're ejecting away. As the moment we're sitting in, I'm not sure about it either ways, so long or short. I think it's best to wait for a more obvious or higher probability trade where I think the outcome and the variables are better aligned and more obvious. So I said we'd cover ENA because I guess we had covered it during this whole period. Then even within this area here, there was a little bit of hope of maybe this was some sort of deviation at this range low that potentially, if BTC was able to get a nice sustained rally, that maybe we could see another visit to this area. I don't think anyone expected these sort of candles. And I think this is a really good reminder to a lot of people, and of course myself included, that alts, although can provide wonderful opportunities, and I guess some people would like to consider it as, well, if I only am investing maybe $1,000 or $2,000, I need a 10x to make anything significant. But there are always instances like this, and I guess it's also similar to maybe talking about leverage trading and being over leveraged and stuff like that. I think there was a lot of kind of, people that suffered a lot during this sort of wipeout, specifically on alts. So I guess it's a really good reminder that, I guess stacking BTC, even though the returns aren't maybe as luxurious at the best of times of seeing, some of the stuff on say Solana chain that was going 1000x and all that sort of stuff and looks quite life changing. A lot of this stuff is extremely illiquid and unpredictable. And at least with BTC can nuke and you can have a really bad day of 10-20%. I'm sure over a bear market cycle, it loses value of 60%, 70% on average. But there is always the element of it's the biggest and it's the best. And if you have to allocate a bigger size of your portfolio to any of these assets, it probably does have to be BTC. And having the short-sighted approach of get rich, get quick tends to be quite counterproductive. And if you were just stacking your sats like I have been doing for so long, and I'm sure countless others in the industry, sometimes that's maybe the less sexier route to riches, but sometimes it actually is the quickest and most efficient. So back to the charts. I guess in hindsight, being of course really good, we were in this sort of region where of course we had some sort of resistance and then some support levels here, and then we kind of came back up through it and kind of chopped through it. This is kind of reminds me of what Solana kind of looks like at the moment. Not saying that this is going to be the fate it's going to endure, but kind of chopping in and around the level where it's kind of starting to lose respect on both sides. So it's not flipping bullish, it's not flipping to resistance, it's kind of losing its power and then dropping back down. You kind of lead into this, but now upon return, we kind of had these two tests, this really nice SFP of the high here. We came back down. Of course, now again, with hindsight, this is obviously just a bearish underside retest of this low. I thought maybe we were going to get through it. And then with market conditions, maybe look for an entry like such. Didn't get it, but thank God I wasn't overly exposed or at all on this down move. And now we are in this area and it's rejecting, although potentially could get through it and look for a retest of this area where I imagine there is going to be a hell of a lot of resistance, because I imagine there was a lot of people who were long in here or even long maybe on this down close candle that are going to look to get out here, because I imagine this was a really nice area to look for shorts for a lot of people. That's if it can get through this key SNR zone where it was the ceiling on this kind of long consolidation, which lasted God knows how long, nearly half a year on this move. So again, same with Solana and I guess less ETH. This chart, I'd be more inclined to maybe look for some short trades in some of these areas or on some sort of move like this. I don't think in this instance that we'll get quite back down to this low, but there is massive potential that we find ourselves in between this range again, and potentially, like a lot of alts, ENA may suffer for a long time and might not come back. So we're going to finish on pump, given that we've been covering it since inception on the channel, nearly at this stage, where we had this retracement into the 618 level in and around this key SNR zone, got the move up, found some sort of resistance at this previous all-time high, and then if I was to drop down to the 4 hour, there is kind of a key SNR zone in this area. So we rejected away and then came back down into this area, which at the time could have been quite appetizing, but again, we never got that confirmation, and probably luckily so, because of course then what followed was this wipeout, and I won't regurgitate what I said on ENA, but I guess I'm sure a lot of people learned some valuable lessons. And now we are getting some, like all alts, these bearish underside retests and heading in this sort of direction. Now, that being said, I do think this area will be supported and a lot of regurgitation on this channel, but I do have some faith that a token like Pump, just given the sheer amounts of cash flow they have, I think they could potentially can afford to continue to buy their token, and then as the market increases, do some tactics to, of course, pump it. So I guess it's not necessarily an endorsement or anything like that at all, but potentially would be interested in something in this region. So that's all for today's market update video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment what your thoughts on the altcoin market is at the moment. I hope no one got burned too bad. I'm sure some of you did, and if you did, I hope you learned a lesson and that you can learn from it and move on and grow as a trader or investor. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.